Welcome to the Friday News Dump for Monday, August 19th, 2013. We're broadcasting to you from Stockbridge, Vermont in the beautiful Green Mountains. My name is Francis Goodwin. This is Greg Crawford. Thanks for joining us tonight. Glenn Greenwald, the reporter who revealed mass surveillance by the U.S. authorities, says he will not be deterred from further reporting after the British government detained his partner and confiscated electronic data.
Greenwald said today that the UK would regret the detention of David Miranda, who was held for 9 hours under anti-terrorism law at London's Heathrow Airport. His electronic devices were confiscated and he was questioned about his private life.
Greenwald, who writes for the Guardian newspaper, has worked closely with U.S. whistleblower Edward Snowden to expose mass intelligence gathering by U.S. and U.K. spies.
Greenwald said that the detention was an attempt to intimidate him for publishing documents leaked by Snowden.
Asked if Miranda's detention would deter future reporting, Greenwald said, quote, "Absolutely not. If anything, it will do the opposite. It will embolden me. I have many more documents to report on, including ones about the UK, where I'll now focus more. I'll be more aggressive, not less, in reporting."
Said Greenwald, and I quote, "I will be far more aggressive in my reporting from now on. I have many documents on England's spy system, and I think they will regret what they have done."
In Egypt, at least 850 people, including 70 policemen and soldiers, have been killed since army-backed interim governments forcibly dispersed Muslim Brotherhood sit-ins in Cairo Wednesday.
Anti-coup marchers are back on the streets of Egypt amid calls for an international probe into the deaths of 36 protesters yesterday while they were in police custody.
Al Jazeera reports that crowds were gathered Monday evening in areas including Helwan in Cairo, Aswit, Zagazig, and Garbia. Troops and armored vehicles were deployed to areas of Cairo to guard government buildings.
The protests come hours after the anti-coup alliance, which includes the Muslim Brotherhood, demanded a formal investigation into the deaths of 37 men being transported in a police van.
The alliance called the deaths a horrific crime, in addition to other crimes committed by leaders of the 3rd of July coup. Sources told Al Jazeera the men were killed yesterday while being transferred to Abu Zabal prison near Cairo in a convoy of about 600 detainees.
Egypt's public prosecutor today ordered the deposed president, Mohamed Morsi, to be detained for 15 days over allegations that he participated in violent acts last December. The 15-day order will begin the end of a 30-day order issued on Thursday related to allegations of collusion with foreign groups and spying.
Morsi had been held by the military since its overthrow on July 3rd.
Hosni Mubarak, Egypt's imprisoned former ruler, has been cleared in a corruption case by prosecutors.
Judicial officials told the AP news agency that a court today ordered the 85-year-old to be cleared in the case that he allegedly embezzled funds for presidential palaces.
Mubarak was arrested after his overthrow in 2011. He still faces charges in another corruption case where he is accused of accepting gifts from state newspapers, but he has already paid back the value of the gifts.
Mubarak is also awaiting retrial after appeals against his conviction and sentenced to life in prison last year over his complicity in the deaths of protesters during the uprising.
Egyptian law does not compel his incarceration while he faces retrial over the protesters' deaths.
However, judicial sources told the Reuters news agency that he would spend another 2 weeks behind bars before a final decision was made on the outstanding corruption case against him. I'd just like to take this opportunity to introduce my lovely wife, Deborah, who's behind the camera. Why don't you say hi, Deborah?
Hi there, everyone.
You're being quiet today.
Well, the news is so bad.
Just being quiet.
And so is the pollen count. So we're
Yeah.
Pollen
suffering.
count too.
I know we have supposedly the weeds up here putting out a lot of pollen.
Yeah, my allergies are acting up a bit.
Oh my.
I was feeling sorry for myself until I hear this news about Egypt.
Physicists have been able to peer back in time to a mere 100,000 to 300,000 years before the Big Bang nearly 14 billion years ago. Using ultra-high-resolution probes to measure cosmic microwave background radiation, they are piecing together a baby picture, if you will, of the universe in its formative years. They hope to learn more about the birth of the universe and the mysteries still hidden in the vastness of space.
I know what story we missed. We missed a story about the wildfire out west, the 12th day of the wildfire, and how there's 1,100 wildfires involved, or firefighters. The United States Department of Justice in 6 states Tuesday filed an antitrust lawsuit to block the proposed merger of American Airlines and U.S. Airways.
Now, a few minutes ago, we talked about the vastness of space. Here's an interesting piece about the vastness of the space between the ears of Tom McClintock, a Republican representative from California. Now, according to McClintock, Wall Street is not committing any criminal practices because, and I quote, "For a criminal practice, there has to be a gun. It's pretty simple." Actually, Tommy boy, it is you that is pretty simple. McClintock is opposed to any reforms that might discourage the bad behavior of Wall Street banksters because bad financial decisions are the responsibility of those that make them. And, quote, "That's the price we pay for the freedom to make all the good decisions in our lives." Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
The man is clearly an idiot, but what does that tell us about the people that elected him?
Is he from Texas?
They walk among us. No, he's from California. They got a few nuts there, too.
American networking equipment manufacturer Cisco Systems Wednesday announced plans to cut 4,000 jobs.
J.P. Morgan Chase has stepped in it once again. This time, the banksters are being investigated for bribing Chinese officials in order to win contracts and favorable decisions regarding the bank's many enterprises in China. On more than one occasion, bank executives are said to have hired the children of high-ranking officials in order to curry favor.
Hired the children, like little
Well,
sweatshop laborers?
no, they're grown-up children, but children nevertheless. You know, they're the offspring, the spawn thereof, whatever you want, or however you want to call them.
The Eurozone Wednesday moved out of 18 months of recession. There was a growth rate of 0.3% in the June quarter.
If you've been wondering how the Republicans are doing in their efforts to bring more Hispanic voters into the conservative hive, here's an illuminating update. An 11-year-old girl attending a town hall meeting in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, told Republican State Representative Scott DesJarlais that she had papers, but her father did not, and she asked what she could do so that her father could stay with her. DesJarlais responded, "Oh, thanks for coming. Now, we have laws, and we need to follow those laws, and that's where we're at." The Tea Party crowd jeered the little girl as she sat down with her head bowed. Her father is in the process of being deported, and she is in therapy to deal with the stress. So I'm guessing that Hispanic outreach isn't going too well for the Republicans.
Yemen Friday changed its weekend from Thursday and Friday to Friday and Saturday.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
That's fascinating.
And that's where we're going to take a break. And we'll be right back after Gregory Crawford's weekly rant. It's a really good one this week, as usual. So join us.
Hi, I'm Greg Crawford with the Friday News Dump, brought to you by World News Trust. People look around like shell-shocked soldiers in a bomb crater. They see the sick and twisted world of American politics and ask themselves this question: how in hell did we get here? How did the once respected nation that conceived and implemented the Marshall Plan following World War II manage to become, in just a few decades, a rogue nation that is feared, distrusted, and despised in every corner of the world? How did we sink so far, so fast? Pundits, analysts, and experts waste tons of paper and clutter the airways with the incessant drone of witless pontificating, nitpicking at the symptoms of our malaise, without ever addressing the root cause of our troubles. Like the name of Voldemort, no one in the idiocracy that is mainstream media dares to address the subject of selfishness. I've touched on the topic many times in past commentaries. It's nearly impossible not to, given that it permeates the warp and weave of our social fabric and pollutes our political structure to its very core. So it requires some serious circumlocution in order to avoid it. But it's time to stop avoiding it and to confront it head-on before it destroys us all, like the virulent cancer that it is. As infants, we are the pure essence of selfishness. We have to be. We are defenseless and completely helpless. We cannot reason, speak, or even feed ourselves. So in that context, selfishness is a survival mechanism. As we mature into puberty, then adolescence, and eventually into adulthood, we gradually subsume our infantile selfishness and balance it with empathy, a concern for the feeling of others. Or at least we're supposed to. Unfortunately, many people do not. And they employ all manner of rationalizations to justify it. The queen of pathological selfishness even wrote a book entitled The Virtue of Selfishness. Her name was Elisa Rosenbaum, better known as Ayn Rand, one of the most diseased individuals ever to befoul planet Earth. She was a third-rate hack who was dismissed as an unhinged sociopath until the Republicans said, "Oh, Ayn, baby, you're our girl." Republicans loved her because she was a Russian who gave credence of a sort to the most despicable aspects of predatory capitalism during the height of the Cold War. Rand Paul was baptized with her nom de plume, for Christ's sake. I guess Rosenbaum Paul just didn't have quite the same snappy ring to it. Most Republicans in Congress make her third-rate novels required reading for staff members. Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead are actually the same book, written twice, so repetitive are the plot lines. Ah, yes, Republicans in Congress. There have always been a few representatives in Congress that display staggering stupidity on a daily basis, and more than a few certifiable psychopaths. But nowadays, these wastes of skin are the rule rather than the exception, and this is way not good. Not for America, not for you and me, and not even for the web-footed pinheads that voted for them in the first place. They just don't know it yet. And boy, howdy do these slime buckets know how to lie. Just a few weeks ago, Mitt Romney had the chutzpah to come right out and say, "I actually never said that about the 47%. He was recorded saying it, for God's sake. What an idiot. Now, I realize that the Republicans refined and polished to a glossy perfection the Nazi propaganda technique called the big lie. But that is a knee slapper even for Romney. Yes, truth is anathema to conservatives, but why do they lie like snakes? Simple. They lie because only lies can support their despicable and deceitful belief system. And that brings us back to our original topic, selfishness. One of the vilest reptiles that ever lived, one Henry Kissinger liked to call it enlightened self-interest. Boy, this waddling puddle of pig excrement actually won the Nobel Prize after bombing Laos and Cambodia back into the Stone Age. Now, what does that tell you about the Nobel judges? Nothing good, that's for sure. Republicans have tried for decades to justify pathological self-interestedness by institutionalizing it as a political philosophy. And then along came the Tea Party. They have completely recalibrated the standard for obscene selfishness, not to mention brazen and malicious deceit. These people screech about freedom, but pass the most invasive, restrictive, and draconian laws in recent history, violating the Constitution with tedious regularity and infringing on personal freedoms for everyone, even to the unbelievable point of violating a woman's right to manage her own reproductive health. Vaginal ultrasound, anyone? Teabaggers piously whine about democracy, but they don't even know the meaning of the word. The fundamental premise of democracy is compromise, and these clowns promise primary challenges against any Republican that even considers it. Speaker of the House John Boehner won't even utter the word. And it's all because they are too selfish to give so much as a moment's thought to anyone else's views on a given issue. This profound selfishness is nearly always accompanied by a congenital inability to think critically. So they're all too willing to do whatever Fox News or the right-wing demagogue du jour tells them to do. This is why psychopaths like Rush Limbaugh can marshal legions of brain-dead ditto-heads to protest and or vote against their own best interests. These lowest common denominators of the social equation have been encouraged to indulge their selfishness in order to fuel the consumer-based economy that grew up after Reagan sold our manufacturing-based economy down the river by removing barriers to overseas manufacturing by American companies. This allowed companies to outsource millions of good-paying jobs to third-world countries where they could make the same products for a fraction of the cost while selling them for inflated prices back here. Now, prodding people to buy overpriced toys that they can no longer afford was good for the credit card industry in the short term, but the boom and bust cycle is unsustainable in the long term. And now the inevitable consequences of our selfishness are coming home to roost.
And we're back. Thanks for joining us. This is the Friday News Dump, or the second segment of the Friday News Dump for Monday, August 19th, 2013.
We changed our weekend just like Yemen.
Yeah, right.
Our weekend fluctuates a bit, that's true.
I'm Francis Goodwin. That's my lovely wife, Deborah, behind the camera. And this is Gregory Crawford. The Indian rupee Friday hit a new record low against the U.S. dollar. The rupee fell to 62.03 rupees against the dollar.
2 roadside bombs exploded on Wednesday in the Iraqi city of Baqaba, killing 14 and wounding 26 people. It's interesting to note that the only people that they are killing are other Arabs. There's no Americans left in Iraq, so this sectarian violence is pretty savage over there.
Yeah, we did a great job of cleaning things up. And
Yes,
leaving it
didn't we
behind.
though, didn't we?
So I detect a note of sarcasm.
Maybe a note.
Maybe a note, maybe a
Maybe a
10-ton
cord.
note. Yeah.
Clashes Thursday between Nigerian soldiers and Boko Haram Islamists killed 18 people in northeast Nigeria.
At least 20 people were killed and 200 injured in an explosion in southern Beirut on Thursday near a complex used by Lebanon's military group Hezbollah in Lebanon. A previously unknown Syrian Sunni group claims responsibility on an online video.
Gulf cartel leader Mario Ramirez Trevino was arrested Saturday in the Mexican state of, how do I say that?
That'd be Talamapis, so
You
Bapatapatafis.
just say that. Tamaulipas.
I think they make those names up just to confuse us.
Golf cartel?
Well, Mexico is nothing but cartels from one end to the other.
Golf?
It refers
Gulf.
to the Gulf of Mexico.
The
Golf.
The Gulf of
Oh.
Mexico,
It's a drug
or it
cartel.
could be the Gulf of California over on the west
I
coast.
see.
Could
I
be.
see.
But it's a drug
But
cartel.
anyway, Syrian rebels attacked a militia checkpoint in Homs Saturday, killing 5 from the NDF militia and 6 civilians nearby as well.
A Syrian government warplane attack Saturday in Aleppo left at least 15 civilians dead.
A team of 20 UN weapons inspectors arrived Sunday in the Syrian capital of Damascus to investigate the allegations of use of chemical weapons in the Syrian civil war.
10 people were killed by insurgents Saturday in a camp in western Afghanistan.
And 6 people were injured on Sunday in a bomb explosion on a bus in the eastern Indian state of West Bengal.
Footage of the isolated and previously unseen Kawahiva tribe was recorded Tuesday for the first time in the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. That sounds pretty cool.
So, and then the next thing they're going to get is a McDonald's.
And smartphones. Yeah.
Frank DeAngelis, the longtime Columbine High School principal who led the school through April '99 Columbine High School massacre, announced Tuesday he will retire at the end of the 2013-14 school year.
The Indian submarine INS Harakashak sank Wednesday in Mumbai following a pair of onboard explosions, killing 18 Indian Navy sailors.
A UPS cargo plane crashed on Wednesday at Birmingham Shuttlesworth Airport in Alabama, killing both the pilot and the co-pilot.
A magnitude 6.6 earthquake struck Ceylon, New Zealand Friday, causing moderate damage in the wider Marlborough region and national capital of Wellington.
31 people and at least 170 missing. So 31 people are dead, and 170 are missing in the Philippines after a ferry sank on Saturday after colliding with a cargo ship. Tore the bow right off the thing.
Wow.
A train accident in India today killed at least 37 pilgrims and injured more than a dozen.
At least 91 people have died and 111 are missing today after days of torrential rain and floods in northeast and southern China. Israeli and Palestinian peace talks started on Tuesday amid controversy over Israeli settlement expansion and the release of 26 Palestinians convicted of murdering Israelis.
North and South Korea Wednesday agreed to reopen the jointly operated Kaesong industrial region.
Hundreds of Palestinians were stranded on Saturday by Egypt's indefinite closure of Rafah border crossing with the Gaza Strip.
Brazil's Ministry of External Relations Friday rejected John Kerry's official statement that electronic surveillance by the National Security Agency, or NSA, was part of a strategy to, quote, combat terrorism.
Russia and Japan today began discussing the main starting points and modality of the upcoming talks on a peace treaty. We didn't know they were at war.
The British warship HMS Westminster arrived in Gibraltar today amid tensions with Spain.
Tensions with Spain?
Well, because Gibraltar is actually attached to Spain, but it's a British protectorate.
Oh.
So, and Spain has taken kind of a dim view of that for several hundred years.
One would imagine.
American politician and former House Representative Jesse Jackson Jr. was sentenced on Tuesday to 30 months in prison for spending $750,000 in campaign funds on personal items. He is to serve his sentence first before his wife, former Chicago Alderman Sandy Jackson, who was given a one-year term for tax fraud.
San Francisco police Wednesday seized ecstasy they valued at $1.5 million.
Don't drop that bump of them. Don't drop that bump.
Oh, dude. Authorities say Bo Xilai, a former Chinese politician charged with bribery and corruption, will go on trial on August 22nd in the city of Jinan.
South African track star Oscar Pistorius is to go on trial March 3rd on charges he killed his girlfriend Reva Steenkamp at his home earlier this year.
Shouldn't have made fun of his legs, I guess, huh? Nova Delphinus 2013, now visible to the naked eye in the dark sky conditions, was reported Wednesday in the constellation Delphinus by amateur astronomer Koichi Itagaki. I got it right the first try.
Wow, that was impressive. You're
It's
good at
pretty
those.
cool that an amateur could pick out a nova, huh?
That's actually the amateurs find more stuff than the guys that make their living at it. The guys that make their living at it are always, looking over there when everything's happening over here, so to speak.
The infamous Area 51 was officially acknowledged Friday by the United States government.
No kidding.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but they would
So
not. They're not renewing the visas for any of the aliens that they've got.
They said it didn't have anything to do with aliens. It was just a surveillance. It was like for the U-2 spy planes.
And they've been denying its existence for 60 years, or 65 years, because I think it was 1947, the year of my birth, that they first saw the articles about flying saucers crashing at Area 51.
So, is it speculated then that it was really just test flights?
Well,
that
that's
were
what they're going to
crashing
say.
in Area
It was
51, not
it
aliens?
was swamp farts, or it was something like there was weather balloons. It was a flock of geese,
yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
balloon animals, and whatever excuse they can come up with. But for a while, they were actually pushing swamp gas. It's true. Nobody bought it.
And that's our show for tonight. This has been the Friday News Dump for Monday, August 19th, 2013. Broadcast to you from lovely Stockbridge, Vermont in the Green Mountains. This is Gregory Crawford. That's Deborah Goodwin.
Thanks. You had to think about it.
What's her name? I know. Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
Sally. And I'm Francis Goodwin. Join us next week. Thank you very much.